Okay, everybody, welcome to Tuesday's edition of X2Go The Spread 2023, and we are starting with Mihai's presentation, Release the K drive.
Right. I know you probably can't see the full window. Or can you? Stefan, can you give me a bit of feedback, please?
I can see your screen.
Yeah, but can you see everything on my screen, or is it
I believe so.
cropped?
There's some fine print in the lower left. There's a white
Yeah,
www.x2go.org in the lower right.
yeah, but well, if I put it in full screen, I see it. Oh, okay. Now I don't see it cropped any longer. Okay, weird. Okay, well, I guess that it's fine then. Okay, whatever. Okay. Right. So, release a K drive. My presentation is about our K drive in release in 2023. And without further ado, let's get to the actual thing. This is just the outline. You don't have to care about that. Okay. As a short recap, but really, really short. K-Drive has been developed by Alexander Schneider. It's a new backend for X2Go, and it's basically working in an RDP VNC-like fashion, as you probably all know by now. And it's especially useful for quickly refreshing applications like modern web browsers. We've had our fair share of problems with for instance, newer Chrome or Chromium versions that work beautifully locally, but not so well over the network because they just start lagging whenever you scroll or whenever there's a lot of changing content in the web browser itself. Right. But so far we haven't had any release packages. We've mostly only had nightly packages for some distributions, but also not all distributions. Now, as part of sponsored work, or at least, some part of sponsored work by a company potentially located in Brazil, um, I was tasked with getting out an X2Go K-Drive release, and we've targeted OpenSUSE 15.4 primarily, but everything else fell out either for free or with a wee bit of additional work. So that was great. Now, OpenSUSE 15.4 needed quite a lot of work on the build infrastructure front. I had to backport all definitions into OBS build, and the OS operating system auto detection didn't actually work well any longer because SUSE started copying binary packages from one release to another if the package content didn't really change. So they basically stopped doing full rebuilds for every single service pack. Now, back in the day, OpenSUSE was based on SUSE Linux Enterprise, but they did a full rebuild of all packages based on the source package provided by SUSE Linux Enterprise, which worked fine back then. But then with Leap 15.3, they actually, implemented something that they called closing the Leap gap. And they tried to make Leap and SUSE Linux Enterprise more like, which basically meant that they also started copying binary packages from SUSE Linux Enterprise directly into Leap. And everything else, and not rebuilding them for that matter. And also adding additional packages as part of backports. Now, as I've said, or maybe as I may have said before, the operating system auto detection in OBS build relied on the RPM dist tag of the RPM package, not any RPM package, but the RPM package. So the package that provides RPM, the Red Hat Package Manager. And for OpenSUSE Leap 15.2 and below, it was just OpenSUSE Leap 15 point something, 2 or 1 or whatever. It's been so that worked fine, but then with 15.3 and also 15.4, the disk tag said OpenSUSE Leap 15.1, which obviously is not really helpful and not working for auto detection. So I've had to rework the build scripts and essentially pass the dist option to OBS build with our to hard code the distribution that we're building for. Okay, hello. Okay, I have to. Ah, okay.
We have
Hi,
another
Ulrich.
UI clone.
Yeah, but yeah. Okay, great. Oops. Nice. So let's move on. There have been a few other issues like RPM in factory not being available, so I had to patch this out of the well build service metadata file essentially. I've also had to backport a fix for libffi7 and GAC Bootstrap, which were in conflict because they both provided the same package essentially, and then fix a build failure for NXLibs, which was something about RPM packaging and the Python part, which now is part of NXLibs because we have NX dialog in there. I then went ahead and added nightly builds for quite a lot of packages like NXLibs, pin for X2Go, X2Go client, caps X2Go, desktop sharing, and so on. Also X2Go server actually, but it turned out that X2Go server is has been incompatible with the potential user etc move in later SUSE versions actually. This is only relevant for SUSE OpenSUSE Tumbleweed right now, I figure, and maybe SUSE Linux ALP. If that ever comes to fruition, I don't know. So basically what user etc move does is to move config files to /user/etc, which actually makes sense if you think about it, because if you provide distribution config files in user etc, then users are not supposed to actually modify them, right? So those are your defaults, and everything that is in etc/etc itself is just additional configuration which overrides the defaults provided by the distribution package. But so far, this is only in OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. Okay, I've had to right, and to fix that, I had to add build time detection of the target system into X2Go server, do some other fixes, and so that's been it for X2Go server essentially. Although we will come back to X2Go server again. And for K-Drive itself, well, we've only had Debian-based packaging because that's all the customer cared for, or Alex customer cared for. So I've also had to add RPM packaging to both the K-Drive server and K-Drive client packages. Okay. I've tested most of these packages in a OpenSUSE Leap 15.4 VM. And that kind of revealed differences in DPI handling and also the way that sessions resize or can resize or don't actually resize. We've been testing with KDE and noticed that a normal session, I've tested a local session with Leap client connecting to Leap server, or actually spawning. I think I've tested. No, I've tested a local session on the Leap client itself, and checked how that worked out in the VM. then tested with X2Go and both with the NX backend and the Kdrive backend. And it seems to be that Kdrive is working more intuitively for resizes, because, for instance, NX-based Windows often can't be really resized by the user. You can try to resize it within the session by, setting a different resolution for the CRTC, but Kdrive is handling this a bit better, I guess. Okay, and we further figured out that the X2Go plasma bindings that are useful for KDE have been totally outdated, which means that, well, they did compile for some newer distributions, but never loaded into anything that was KDE 5. So those had to be fully rewritten. And thankfully, Robert Tari provided an implementation of that without shared folder support. And really, it's not all that useful, to be honest, because it's only providing a logout button, essentially. Or, well, not a logout button, but I guess just a session suspending button. Anyway, more work on that maybe at some later point in time. But this rewrite was difficult, to do. Well, the rewrite itself hasn't been really difficult, but we've had to basically move from C++ to something like QML and C++ wrapper. So a totally different programming language and stuff like that, because that's well supported within the KDE Plasma framework. And the support for the old stuff that has been used in KDE 4 has essentially been dropped and completely removed without a proper replacement. Okay, now once that was done, I was finally able to release Kdrive itself, which essentially just consisted of a lot of component releases. So I've had to release the Kdrive server itself. I've also went ahead and released NX Lives because I needed a build fix on newer SUSE Linux operating systems. Anyway, so I just synced it up with whatever Arctica provided and released it. Then I've had to do multiple iterations of the X2Go server release because people rightfully complained on the mailing list once the initial release was out that it just didn't work. We've had some packaging bugs that I wasn't able to catch earlier, and I think I've had to do 2 other releases shortly after another. But that's the way it's been. I've also released X2Go Kdrive client, and because we actually needed a new X2Go client release anyway. It was like the last release has been like 3 years ago. So I've also released that with including proper Qt5 support, not for Windows or macOS, but at least for Linux-based operating systems. I've also released the new version of X2Go Plasma bindings and Pi-Hooker CLI because that was on my to-do list anyway. And yeah, that's basically it.
Thank you for your presentation. I would like to ask a question, if you don't mind. I think it was on slide 6, where you mentioned the resizing. Or 7, maybe? 7, this one. Is that related to this bug that we've seen regarding K-Screen 2, like where disabling K-Screen 2 helped in an NX-based X2Go session to keep?
I've been debugging this with you, Stefan, so you should know. It's been kind of related to that because K-Screen 2 actually started or resized the session to, I don't even know to what value. It was really, really big, and I didn't have any display connected that would have been able to provide the size. So yeah, that was one problem. But the other problem was that we've had the task that the taskbar at the lower edge
At the
of
bottom
the
of the
screen,
screen.
at the bottom of the screen, was, well, either too big or too small. I think it was too big, although it was set to the correct value, which somehow is related to DPI, because I think that's actually a bug in KDE that the taskbar itself shouldn't respect the DPI if you set a fixed size, but it does. Something like that. I don't remember these specifics, and I haven't actually debugged this within KDE.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions for Mihai? Well, both Vadim and Yuri have their microphones muted, so let's check the chat. Nothing in the chat either. Well, I guess in that case, we can stop the live stream. Thank you for